this episode, Guardians of the Galaxy with Josh Fred. Josh Fred is a comedian friend of mine with a very distinct perspective to come at things from. So this becomes quite the feminist discussion as to what we think would have made Guardians of the Galaxy better, and it's not much. Josh even admits that this is actually a really good movie. There's just certain things that bugged him so much that it got to be a disappointing situation. I jumped at the chance to hear what Josh had to say about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I hope you will too. So that's that. This is I Want to Like This, episode 14, Guardians of the Galaxy with Josh Fred.
All I kind of do is talk, though. That's my entire life.
Yeah. Oddly enough, my voice is still much louder, because my voice is much louder in the world. But yeah, that's all I talk. That's all I do, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, going over this. This is the first time I've recorded one of these podcasts with this recorder in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have Jerry's recorder most days,
Mm-hmm.
and not mine, which is nice. Fuck this thing.
Is there like a predetermined time limit, or just however long it takes?
I normally try to aim for the 45-minute mark.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yep. So, okay. It's warm as fuck in here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, everybody. It's Thomas Sinclair. Today on the podcast, I am here with Josh.
Fred. F-R-E-D-I-N. Yeah,
okay, I didn't know what last name we were going to use this time. I probably should have asked that before I turned the microphone on. But Josh Fred is here to discuss with me a movie that I absolutely loved. And when he picked it, I was like, okay, let's do this. Josh, you want to tell the people what movie you decided to pick for I Want to Like This?
I picked Guardians of the Galaxy.
The just blockbuster hit of last year.
Yes.
You decided, I just don't like this movie as much as everyone, like I thought I would like this. It's just...
Basically, yes.
Well, Josh, you want to tell everyone a little about yourself? You're a stand-up comedian?
Yeah, I'm trying to be a stand-up comedian. Still kind of at the beginning of that. I do a lot of open mics, and I did one show recently, and I'm hoping to, really get back into it. I did it a little bit before, but actually left to...
Before what?
Before I lived in Japan for 5 years, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Josh was a teacher in Japan for 5 years before coming back to the land of plenty. And by plenty, I mean overweight people.
Basically, yes.
Which Josh makes plenty of jokes about the differences between Japan and America when it comes to heavyset people.
Yep.
Josh, what's your favorite movie?
To be honest, I got asked this recently, and I didn't know what to pick, so I picked X-Men First Class, just because I've seen it so many times.
That's not a terrible pick. There's plenty of good acting in that movie, and I like James McAvoy in it.
Oh,
like, everyone's like, Michael Fassbender, and I'm like, you just because, shame. But, like...
I love Michael Fassbender so much in it, and I love him a lot, but James McAvoy, it's also there's really great chemistry between the two, and they're clearly friends in real life. And
I think there's chemistry between the main three people in that cast.
Oh,
because
yes.
I think Jennifer Lawrence has great chemistry with both of them. And
yes.
that is just fortuitous casting to get Jennifer Lawrence before she just blew up huge.
Yes, they got so lucky with that. I knew
they
she
filmed
was
that
amazing.
movie right before Hunger Games came out. So once Hunger Games came out, she's this huge star. And she was money for that movie as well as it being an X-Men movie. Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting choice. That's your favorite movie, and now we're going to go into Guardians of the Galaxy, another movie, another Marvel property. You have to explain why you got excited about this, aside from it being a Marvel movie, and those have just been hitting them out of the park left and right.
Well, to be honest, I was having a really hard time last year. I was going through a lot of stuff, and I went through a period where I read a lot of Marvel comics. I didn't really ever get into the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. I've read things that had the characters in it, but it was mostly like the Captain Marvel or something like that had them. But I knew it was a Marvel property, and it sounded really interesting and more on the science fiction aspect. And it seemed to be inhabiting the same colorful action sci-fi comedy realm that The Fifth Element inhabits. And The Fifth Element, actually, that would be another movie I could also say is one of my favorite movies ever.
I would say their universe is almost like either Fifth Elementy or a lot like Firefly. It's got the Lucas exploit of there's a dirty rebuilt universe, but it's also got this clean Nova core and feeling to it. So I kind of relate it to Firefly, like the capital cities. But yeah, I like the universe and I really love the concept and like those commercials were like they were advertising that didn't give too much away, but gave so much that you're like, I have to see this movie.
Well, I never saw the commercials that aired in the U.S. I was in Japan.
Yeah, you were in Japan at the time.
I was in Japan at the time, but I did see the trailer online, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. And also, another thing about me is I'm probably one of the world's biggest Parks and Recreations fans. And
Parks and Rec is great, so Chris Pratt, obviously.
Yes, and I am very much about Chris Pratt being a huge major movie star, and I love him.
You know that James Gunn did not want to even let Chris Pratt try out at first, audition for this role, and his casting director's like, no, you have to do this. You have to let Chris Pratt, because he didn't see Chris Pratt being Star-Lord, because Chris Pratt was still heavy set. Within 30 seconds of Chris Pratt in the audition, he was like, nope, this guy, I don't even care if he can't lose the weight, I don't care, I'll film around it, I'll CGI Chris Pratt abs on, but I want Chris Pratt in this role, because he's meant to be Star-Lord.
And I totally understand that, and I think it, and I love Chris Pratt so much, and so I heard about this movie, and it's a movie that's Marvel, but it's an area I'm not as familiar with, but it seems interesting. It has all these amazing actors, amazing people like Zoe Saldana. I love her. I feel like she doesn't always necessarily get the best roles.
Oh yeah, she was the blue cat in the Awful movie.
And she was...
Come at me, Cameron fans. I dare you.
Yeah. I never actually saw Avatar.
It's not worth seeing. Have you ever seen Fern Gully?
Yes.
Then you saw Avatar.
That's what I've basically heard.
No, that's exactly what it is. Only the bats don't talk in an Avatar, and they're blue people. And everyone fucks everything.
I saw the trailer and it looked cheesy and everyone loved it, but it reminded me very much of Titanic. When I saw the trailer, it looked cheesy, but all these people loved it, and then I went to it.
I didn't like that film either.
It was not impressed with Titanic. I mean,
in my mind, James Cameron's made like one really great film, and it's Terminator 2: Judgment Day. And after that, he's just kind of a hack.
He does some things extremely well, but
Explore the Bottom of the Sea. Yes, that's it.
But yeah, so just getting back to Guardians, like there has all these people. Like I love Bradley Cooper. I did not think I would love him so much, and then I saw Silver Linings Playbook, which is another one of my favorite movies ever.
Jennifer Lawrence movie. I do love that movie.
Oh, that's one of the best portrayals of mental illness I've ever seen in a movie ever, and I love it. And I love his range because I was not expecting that from him. I saw The Hangover years ago, and
he's just that dude. In The Hangover.
Yeah, and
he happens to be ridiculously good looking.
Yeah. And it's sort of like the same thing with if someone saw Chris Pratt for the first time, how we see him now is, how are you this ridiculously good looking and really talented and funny and everything?
Because I was the fat kid for years.
Well, yeah, basically. Or like how John Hamm, if you see how ridiculously awkward he used to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then also it has Vin Diesel, who I always feel like is always more talented than people kind of give him credit for.
I will admit that. But you know what? It's also the roles he chooses don't show range. He doesn't pick roles that show range.
Yeah. And I don't know anything about, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the guy who played Drax, I don't know anything about him.
That's Dave Bautista, former WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, I remember that. And that was another, I didn't know what to think about him, but I figured they probably were onto something with him similar to Vin Diesel.
He was actually in a movie with Vin Diesel before this. I think he was in one of the Riddick movies with Diesel.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I'd seen him in a movie, and I thought he was amazing. It has John C. Reilly.
Yes, John C. John C. Reilly steals every moment he's in the shot.
Yeah.
He's fantastic in just everything he does. I love him in bit roles, too.
And it has Karen Gillan, who I'm absolutely in love with. I love her so much. Though I do not understand, they took away my two favorite things about her, which was her hair and her Scottish accent for this movie, which is like, you're going to cast Karen Gillan in a movie and you're going to make her shave her head and talk in an American accent.
The shaving her head was actually her choice.
Mm-hmm.
And the character that she portrays
yeah.
is, Nebula is bald.
Yeah, no, so, absolutely. I think it was really good casting, and I feel like she did a fantastic job. Too. Yeah. It seemed weird to me, but it was, like, intriguing. Like, I need to see this.
Yeah. And I think it was nice for her to be like, I'm not going to be just the redheaded Scottish girl.
Right.
So this is all stuff that got you really excited for it.
And I watched the trailer so many times. I had pictures of it as my wallpaper because I saw some of the promo art and I thought it was so cool.
There's a lot of great promo art for this movie.
And one of the things, though, if I talk about why I was disappointed with it, I do have to say that I think some of it is not necessarily the movie's fault. There's some things that are circumstantial. There's, first of all, there's the fact that I didn't get
we're going to get to that.
Yeah, okay.
But the first part of this is
why I was excited, yes.
Why you were excited, but I think we've covered why you're excited. There's so much great promotional work. It's got a great cast. It's a Marvel title in a time when Marvel is just churning out really fun and good films.
Absolutely.
And you know...
And a completely different direction than what they've been doing, too.
Yeah, and yet still connected to their universe. Which is such a cool thing that Guardians of the Galaxy exists in the universe that it's the same as the Avengers. Just farther distance in another galaxy.
Which, if you read the comics, you can see how it works, but it can, for somebody who's just getting into it.
Yeah. So, on to this part. Yeah. Josh, what do you like about this film? Aside from the cast, which is amazing, the effects and the promotion and the artwork.
Well, it's hard to talk about what I like without getting into what I don't like, but there's so much about it that I really love. And a part of it, a big thing is if I'm disappointed, it's because there's so much stuff that's good.
The stuff that isn't good just makes the disparaging. Yeah, I get you.
And so when I think about it, and I think about, like, X-Men First Class, and I've seen this, it's one of the only, 2 movies I own on DVD. I've seen it so many times, but I know that there's large portions of the movie I'm not a big fan of, and I'm not a big fan of some of the pacing and some of the things that happen. And when I rewatch it, I'm rewatching it for certain scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm also rewatching it because a lot of it hit the right emotional tone for me. But then I think about Guardians of the Galaxy, and in many ways, I can see how it's a superior movie.
It is a vastly superior film.
As a movie. As a movie. And there's so much, the pacing, the imagery, it's gorgeous.
It is fantastic. James Gunn knows his way around using a budget.
Mm-hmm. It looks so much more expensive than it is. I love Rocket. Rocket was amazing.
Rocket and Groot are two of my, I cried when a raccoon cried, okay? A digitally animated raccoon voiced by the guy from Hangover cried in a movie, and a pro wrestler painted gray patted him on his head, and I fucking teared up over a tree. Over a fucking tree. Played by Vin. I only got 3 words to say in this entire movie. Diesel. Okay?
Yeah.
That is fucking amazing directing and storytelling.
Mm-hmm. And I love them. There's a lot that I love. Something that really surprised me when I rewatched it the other day was I was like, oh my god, Star-Lord is so gorgeous. I didn't react that way.
Chris Pratt is fucking, the first, you only see him without a shirt off once. And that time I'm like, look, I'm not gay, but if Chris Pratt took me to dinner and was as charming as he is, and I knew that was under the shirt, I might let him put it in me. I'm not even gonna lie. I might, everyone I talked about this with Peter Daniel the other day when I recorded his podcast. Everyone's got those guys, and I guess my type is Superman, Because I'd let, not Brandon Routh, but I would let Tom Welling, and I'd let the new guy. I'd probably let them. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, not Dean Cain? He's like, nah, Dean Cain never did it for me. And I was thinking about mine, I was just like, it's gotta be, yeah, it's gotta be Chris Pratt. He's so goddamn charming.
And, yeah, oh my god, yeah. Though I have to say, Brandon Routh kind of does it for me, honestly.
He's a pretty man.
Yep.
Although every time I think of another guy going, hey, Brandon Routh kind of does it for me, I always want to go, was it from the Zack and Miri makeup?
Yes! Oh my, he was adorable in that movie, but that's really getting off topic.
Yes, it is. So, okay, things we like.
Yeah.
Everyone's performance is amazing. The performances of all these, there's all these ancillary characters who are played by amazing people. We mentioned John C. Reilly.
Peter Stefanowitz.
Yes. Just like even Michael Rooker as Yondo is fantastic. I love Michael Rooker as Yondo. But then you have like Glenn Close shows up as Nova Prime, and I'm like, fuck yeah, yes, one of the arguably the greatest actress of all time is in this movie. Of course she is. Why not?
Well, yeah, why not? And she's great, and she adds to the gravitas, and
she seems like the leader of the the developed world.
Yeah, and it goes to sort of like helping sympathize with the Xandarians.
The Nova,
the Nova Corps. Mm-hmm. But
who could be this extra worldly police force like they are in Firefly?
Mm-hmm.
But no, they seem to have heart and they're real people, and they go to show that, and I really like it.
Yeah.
So what else? Like, aside from that, is there anything else you like? We mentioned the visual effects, which are glorious. I just keep thinking about the scene with Chris Pratt jumping out of the ship to rescue Zoe Saldana as they're freezing. That's just wow. And then to go, like, there's this breathtaking moment, and then the levity they add to it the second they're in the ship, on Yondu's ship, is fantastic. He instantly goes, like, I was real heroic, and you're like, God damn it. This character would make that mistake.
Yep. My favorite moment in the entire movie is the one where he starts dancing.
As he's walking into the ruins. Oh, no, towards the finish.
No, towards the finish when he's just distracting
he starts singing.
Yeah,
dance contest, bro. Come on.
That's my favorite moment, and I laughed out loud.
I love how the characters are written in this, because I've read a bunch of the comics, and this isn't the original Guardians of the Galaxy team.
Yeah,
and people were like, why didn't they go back to the original? Well, this is the one that was in 2008 when they started writing the script, and I think it was really it's a more current team, and it relates what's in the comics, which is something they do, and they've actually made the comics relate a lot more to what the Marvel Universe has.
And I don't think they had to go with the original team either.
No.
I mean, with the Avengers, they didn't choose Giant Man. They didn't choose. I wanted Wasp, but they had the reasons for the characters that they picked. They didn't have to go with the original team. There's no reason for them to necessarily do that.
I mean, they went with a lot of the people from the
original.
They went with the big three right off the bat.
But still, they didn't have to keep the lineup the exact same, and I 100% agree with that. I would have quibbles over maybe they should have, who maybe they should have added to it too, but
I really like the team that they picked, and I like the overarching story that they picked with them.
Well, they're Guardians of the Galaxy, so of course they have to be defending the galaxy. That has to.
It had to be a big moment, and I think that the continued Kevin Feige is brilliant in the layout he's given the Marvel movies.
That's how you say his name?
Kevin Feige, yeah.
I've actually only read it, so I thought it was like Feige.
No, it's Feige.
Feige, okay.
But Kevin's brilliant. I think it's Feige. I'm going to get corrected by someone. I don't know. It's going to be funny when they try to correct me on it on the internet, and they type it in a comment board. It's like, it's pronounced this, and it's like, dude, I'm still going to read it as Feige because you wrote it out, you idiot. Spell it phonetically. But no, Kevin Feige's got a really good overarching vision. The idea of linking all these movies up with the Infinity Gems from that first Thor movie, from the Captain America Winter Soldier, it's really smart, and
and it's all advancing a movie, and it makes you see a movie you might not see otherwise. And I totally agree. Like, even when I read a comic and I'm like, oh God, why should I care about the Infinity Gem? Like, if I read comics, I tend to like more of the superheroes, I don't care so much of, let's get this item that...
Yeah, the quest.
Yeah, the quest. I'm not
That's
as
what
big
I played
on
Zelda for.
Yeah. Fair enough, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But it links to movies.
yeah, and I think they've done really well. And the idea that they had to save a whole planet from someone because they got one of these gems, it's a great MacGuffin in film terms. It's a good little Maltese Falcon of itself.
Yeah.
And I love that idea, and I really like the character development through the movies. It's understandable why they would bicker. And like, I mean, everyone does that. Oh, they bicker, blah blah blah. Well, these ones have a fully legitimate excuse to bicker.
Yes,
and their bickering is highly enjoyable.
Oh my god, yes. And the instant chemistry between all of them, and they have the raccoon having chemistry with
Everyone has chemistry with the raccoon. I think that's you got to give credit to James Gunn's brother, who's one of the Ravagers, but he's also the physical stand-in for Rocket.
Oh,
when they do all the
that.
scenes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it wasn't actually Bradley Cooper.
No, Bradley Cooper only did the voice.
Yeah,
it was James Gunn's brother doing the physical stand-in.
Well, I guess it makes sense because I think they brought Bradley Cooper in at the very, very, very end.
It might have been also awkward because Bradley Cooper and Zoe Saldana were dating up until right before they started filming this movie.
Really?
Yeah, they broke up right before the beginning of this movie. Apparently, I was reading on IMDb.
I had no idea they ever dated.
Yeah, that is a pretty couple.
They would have the most gorgeous babies that were ever.
Quite possible, yeah.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that might have been awkward. But yeah, it's James Gunn's brother, Sean, who is the secondary Ravager.
Oh, okay.
He is the Rocket Raccoon's physical stand-in.
Oh, okay.
So he's there every day they film, not just when the Ravagers are. Yeah, I think that the chemistry is amazing. There's so much to like. I love the plot. I love the settings. The Eternal's skull, like the Eternal's head, is where they're mining, and that's nowhere. I thought that was amazing. Benicio del Toro as the Collector.
That was such a random choice, but it was.
It's fantastic. The end credit scene the end credit scene makes my day. I like Howard the Duck.
Well, okay. Then we're starting to get into where I was disappointed with one of the.
Well, that's the next question I'm gonna ask. Why were you disappointed with this film?
There's a couple things that go in. The first big one I have to say is the fact I saw it 4 months after everyone else did.
Oh, that does. Then you have to deal with everyone telling you it's great, and that is never good for a film.
Yes, so I had everyone telling me it was great, and I also had Howard the Duck spoiled for me.
Oh, that moment. That moment's amazing in two ways, because I saw it a couple times when it came out, but I saw it opening night, and, like, Howard the Duck shows up, and you could hear, like, audible people going, "Who? What?" And then me going, "Oh, shit! It's Howard the fucking Duck!" And people are like, "Oh, shit, it is Howard the Duck!" And everyone losing, like, a bunch of people losing their mind who lived through the 80s, and then there's a bunch of, like, kids who were born in, like, 1995 on up, like, no idea who this duck is drinking. And I'm like, you're all idiots. Go read some comics. Go watch a terrible 80s flick with duck-on-woman action. It's got duck tits, everybody. Duck tits. Never wanted to see some feathery boobs? Go watch Howard the Duck. It's also got the most... I love Leah Thompson.
I do, too. Oh, my God. I love her.
She was so goddamn gorgeous. She's still a beautiful, beautiful woman. But, like... She'll always be the one where I'm like, I could understand if Marty McFly decided to be his own dad. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to say it's not creepy, but I would understand.
Oh, yeah.
Because if that was my mom coming on to me, I'd be like... And, like, that moment she kisses, like, kissing my brother, I'd be like, we don't have to kiss.
Oh, I love her, yeah.
That revealed way too much.
Oh, God.
But, no, okay, so, yeah, you had people just... telling you too much about it, like, oh, it's so great. Nothing can ever live up to that.
And I also had the fact that I was spending a lot of time on the Marvel subreddit, and so I was trying to avoid spoilers, But still, I knew about like the little baby Groot dancing.
Yes.
I had seen gifs of that before.
Both on your comment of calling it GIF and not GIF, and
it's GIF.
It's GIF.
The creators have
The creator is not a linguist. He's not. It's a hard G. It's GIF. He's an idiot. He's a he's technologically clever and brilliant, but when it comes to linguistics, he's wrong. Anyone who knows Latin and English, like you ask an English professor, they're going to be like, no, it's GIF. What is he, an idiot? It's not a J.
Well, okay, this is an argument for some other time. But
it is an argument for some other time, but it really sucks that you had all that spoiled for you.
I had that spoiled.
Because that's a great little moment when you don't see it coming.
Mm-hmm. And I also had the months of expectation, and I didn't get to see it with people who were really into Marvel because nobody in Japan has ever heard of this comic book. In Japan there are people like Spider-Man, but that's pretty much like recently they're starting to get like they know who Captain America is and stuff like that. But
the idea of Captain America being popular in other countries is weird to me. Because it's the only thing waving the flag that's popular in the world.
It's really strange seeing Captain America, the first Avenger, in Japan when I was there, and then seeing Winter Soldier. It was like, why is this a major thing in this country? Why did Thor get over here?
Well, Captain America is like, I can get Thor. It's a Norse god, cool.
Yeah.
Like, Japan kind of idolizes Westernized culture with its youth. But, like, this is a guy who served in the war.
Yeah. But then again, Pearl Harbor was a big hit in Japan.
You know what? I'm not even going to comment on that. That's just awkward.
There's a lot of interest in Japan over World War II, and then
they should know the history of their country.
And there's a lot of interest in multiple sides, and there's of course more than two.
Good. I'm glad that there's a movement going for more historical education. I know Japan had wiped out a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I know Germany has wiped out everything.
There's still to a certain extent where a lot of people don't know like the full history, but I sort of feel in some ways it would be like, if you have a movie about the Civil War in the U.S., you have the two halves of the country that are going to react to a movie about the Civil War in very different ways, but you can still play to multiple levels. And then with Pearl Harbor, there was a love story to it, so they played up the love story aspect to it, and it still was successful. And with Captain America, it's still, I mean, he's not fighting the Japanese.
He's fighting German mercenary kind of scientists.
So they don't really care so much, but there is still the interest in World War II with a lot of people, and there's still they think positively about the U.S., but still it's not going to be as patriotic. It's going to play up more of the action aspects, and there were some romantic aspects and things, and it wasn't necessarily a huge hit.
God bless Haley Atwell.
Yeah, best part of the whole movie. Oh my God, but.
Might be the single most beautiful woman walking God's green earth today.
And she's British.
Yep, that kind of adds to it.
And adorable. Did you see her driver's license photo?
Because she did it, But we gotta get back to Guardians.
Yeah, okay.
So things you didn't like, it really, too many people overhyped it for you. And that's the problem with a lot of these summer blockbusters. They get really hyped. Like, there's a lot of people who are disappointed with Jurassic Park. I'm like, well, one, you should be disappointed with that movie. But two, Jurassic World. But two, it was really hyped. Like, we live in a world full of hype right now.
Yeah.
And the studios build hype for like there's Star Wars hype for the last year.
Yeah.
And it still isn't here.
Yeah.
So
it's really easy to get fatigued, and so by the time I finally saw it, there was that aspect to it.
Yeah.
Another thing though that ended up being a big thing for me is that as much as there was things about that I loved, it was really hard for me to have an emotional connection to it, which might seem really strange, but when I like superhero movies, it's because I have an emotional connection to it in some way. I can relate to some of the characters in some ways. And one of the things about X-Men First Class is I can really empathize with this feeling of being a mutant and different in society and being really othered in many different ways. And then but I still have to like persevere and, you know, and use that to help other people too. I can't wallow in self-pity. I can't be like, oh, woe is me, there's blah 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 and blah 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 and everything. I have to, you know, go through that. And then the mutants, they're hated by society, but they use the thing that society hates them for to help people and to try to make things better for other people. And then I really empathize with Captain America because I can empathize, you know, like growing up and, you know, feeling like you're too weak in your body and not, you know,
yeah.
And so, like, I can really understand and I can empathize and I can go with that. And then Iron Man, I don't really relate to as much, but he's cool. But it's also kind of interesting.
It's just Robert Downey Jr. being charming and a rich asshole.
Yeah. It's also, like, and also with Superman, I think I mentioned before, like, he's, you know, he's the orphan.
He's the alien, yeah.
He's the alien.
He's got this great home life, and he still feels alien to the entire world.
And he has to hide who he really is most of the time.
Never gonna hear me argue with that because I love Superman. The people who listen to this podcast should know I love Superman. I hate Zack Snyder.
Well, yeah, and so I can really relate to this. And then in Guardians, there's a lot of characters that are still like that on that same level. You have, you know, Rocket, who's like one of a kind.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't know what he is. He doesn't even understand the concept of what a rodent or a raccoon is because, well, rodents and raccoons don't know what those terms are.
Yeah.
And then he's been genetically like he's a tiny Frankenstein's creation.
Yeah, and he's the only of his kind. He's the only thing like him. There's nobody else like him. And for me, I definitely relate to like the idea of like there's nothing else like me. Which recently I've met a lot of people who have things in common with me that has been really hard to find things in common with me, and so it's really great, and so I can empathize with them. And then you have characters who like Drax, who's had like terrible shit happen to him, but he's trying to make things right, and he's just trying to do the best that he can.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't even say he's trying to do the best that he can. Well, he's just trying to get vengeance.
He's just trying. Well, he's just trying to. Like, I don't know, just like...
He needs a mission, like, since his family's gone.
Right, exactly. He needs something, he's just trying to get through, like... And there's a lot of characters like that, but then the thing that happens to me is, like, I sort of feel like, for me, Star-Lord is like a needle scratch for me. Because it's really hard for me to see the movie and not think about him as like the embodiment of male entitlement, which I should elaborate on because there's a lot of things in common with him, like with the main protagonist in a lot of different movies.
Yes, there is.
And he's very much like a Han Solo type character.
Han Solo, Indiana Jones, totally.
He is. And he's the sarcastic anti-hero who's very good looking, who is very much out for himself, but then ends up helping other people. And there's a lot of that. But it's another thing for me, though, is that the movie very much got hyped as being incredibly feminist. And a lot of people that I still have had conversations with trying to argue how much of a feminist movie it is. And I don't agree. I don't particularly think it's particularly feminist.
It's not particularly feminist. It does have feminist empowerment roles for women.
There are some really cool female characters.
Yes.
And I love them. But as a movie as a whole, I don't particularly think it's feminist. And then I had a lot of people telling me it was really feminist, and then I saw it, and then Star-Lord's the main character.
Yes, he is.
And he's not just one of the team.
No, he is the lead.
He's the lead. And then...
This is not Avengers where it's mostly an ensemble cast. This is starring Chris.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt is the star of this movie.
He's the star of the movie, and he's portrayed as the hero, but then even at the very end of the movie, he does a few heroic things in the movie, but... It's still, he's not the one who saves the day. He's the one who distracted the bad guy when the real people actually who save the day. but
It's the whole team that saves
yeah,
the
it's the
day.
whole
He's
team.
part of it.
He's
definitely the leader
he's
in that
and I was,
situation.
he's definitely the leader.
Yes.
And he's very much acting in the team, but he ends up getting kind of all the credit. Like, the thing that, for me, is the worst part of the whole movie is the very end where, like, Gamora gushes over him, like, anything for you, whatever you say, Star-Lord, or anything for you, Star-Lord. That just, it leaves such a bad taste in my mouth.
That is a line I have a problem with, for the sheer fact that her whole arc in this whole thing is getting away from a male authority figure.
And then she switches over to another male authority figure.
Yep.
And I totally agree. And for me, I feel like Gamora should have been the hero of the whole movie. That is the main change I would make. To be honest.
Oh, so now we're just going to go right into what you would change about the
movie?
Well, okay,
we don't have to go into it.
No,
but
do you have any more complaints? Like, is there anything else that you don't like about this movie before we go into this?
Well, one of the things that I can get into is that there's a trope that I've seen a lot in movies, especially that I've noticed recently, where you have movies that have some sort of inherent struggle in them, and then you have the really badass female character who is very much in the middle of the struggle at the start of the movie, and she is amazing. And then you have the entitled white guy who's not been a part of this, comes in out of nowhere and has no training and has no background or whatever, and suddenly swoops in and saves the day by being the white guy hero.
And he does come in with a birthright to it, yeah.
It has a birthright, yes, and has a fucking birthright to it. And Gamora, she's the one with the training. She's the one who's been fighting. She's a fucking badass. And then Star-Lord comes in with his Kevin Bacon references that I hate. I don't hate Kevin Bacon. I hate the tone of the references. Like, it just, like, he just so much like he's the stand-in for all the spoiled straight white dudes watching the movie, and he's very much supposed to be that kind of stand-in character that you're supposed to empathize with, and then I can't empathize with him. And he comes in with his references that he gets and nobody else gets, and he like saves the world just by being himself. And it happens so much in different movies. And I came into this having just watched the Lego movie, and the Lego movie has the same arc. It has Elizabeth Banks' character. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but she's basically the very same kind of character as Gamora.
She's awesome.
Yeah, and she's fucking awesome. And then for whatever reason, Chris Pratt's character is the one who's the architect or the builder who is able to save everybody just by virtue of being himself, not by virtue of his accomplishments or anything that he particularly tried very hard with before the movie happened. Just by being himself.
The chosen one.
He's the chosen one. Yeah. Where I watched it and I feel like the Lego movie would have been way better if Elizabeth Banks had been the hero. Or The Matrix, why was Trinity not the hero? Keanu Reeves, like, I feel like he was cool and his character was a hacker before it. It's not like he was, like, it was anything about, but he's still the chosen one.
True.
And then you have, like, a movie where, like, Van Helsing, which was a terrible movie.
It is an awful movie.
But Kate Beckinsale, by every right, should have been fucking amazing and should have been the hero.
Well, no, that one I'll argue because Van Helsing has been at it for centuries in that film. So, the training thing...
That one is a little bit of a stretch, but still, she should have been on at least more equal footing instead of turning... With her, it was the character who should have been badass and then turns into the damsel in distress.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, she does turn into a damsel.
And she's played by Kate Beckinsale, who can kick fucking ass in other movies. But anyway, it's just something that I notice in a lot of movies. And it wouldn't bother me so much if it didn't happen in so many movies.
Sure.
And so then I had all these expectations and everything, and then I see this stuff unfolding for me that's reminded me too much of other movies that really bothered me, and it takes me out of the movie too. And that's another thing, is that the first time I saw the movie, and actually the second time I saw it, like, I hated it so much the first time, I was like, well, maybe if I see it again, I'll have a different reaction. And then I went to it again, and I almost walked out of the movie theater. And it was very much at that point in my life, I was having a very hard time getting into the movie. When I watched it again this week, I felt a little bit more of a detachment to it, or an emotional detachment going into it, which it was less personal for me, which oddly enough helped me get into the feeling of it more. And I actually really enjoyed it a lot more the third time that I saw it. And so it still turns into kind of a weird choice for this, but there's still a lot of things that I feel very strongly about.
No, I totally understand. I see where you're coming from, and I can see why that would totally take you out of the film. And I'm really worried that you're going to take me out of this film I horribly enjoy.
Yeah, I don't want to take.
No, it's cool. That's on me.
Yeah.
God, with that said,
yeah.
Josh, how do you fix this film for you?
Okay, well, yes. The first thing is not having Star-Lord being the main character. I wanted Gamora to be more of the main character, more of, not necessarily, she doesn't necessarily have to be the hero, but more on equal footing. Like the scene with there, of course, like my understanding of the comics is that there really isn't a romantic thing between Gamora and Star-Lord. I don't see why they had to shoehorn that into the movie. I don't see why we had to have Star-Lord, like, proving his manliness by having the random chick he just banged being in the ship, and it just made him...
That actually isn't just about, like, the proving the manliness. Star-Lord's a philanderer in the comics. So that's actually pretty on point to the character.
It is on point, but then you have him as the hero of the movie.
Look, you can be a philanderer, you can be a horrible person and still save the day a lot of times.
Which
World
I totally
War II
agree.
proved that.
I totally agree.
But like, what I'm going to argue your point to is, that scene's totally cool if at the end he's still getting shut down by Gamora.
Yes, that is, I 100% agree. But then when you actually get into the movie and at the very end, she's all like,
funny for him.
Yeah. So
doesn't necessarily fit the character.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Her emotional arc doesn't make any sense. I don't like that the final, like, the battle that she has with her and Nebula, like, that is something you see a lot in the movies that have, like, a female character who's an action hero. Then at the end, her final battle is like another female character. It's just such a stereotype I see so many times. Why did they have to be off kind of separate from the action to have their own thing? And they're just arguing about their male authority figures, and it doesn't ring true to me necessarily, and it's something I've seen so many times, and I don't like it. I had a thing with the fact that the movie was about rescuing the Xandarians. I'm sorry if I'm saying it.
No, you're fine.
Xandarians. There's things that Glenn Close is really great to helping get people to care about the Xandarians, but it's still, we don't see very much about them. Why should we care? It does kind of seem like with them versus the Kree, we don't really see enough of either of them to why should we pick?
We know she messages them early on that I can't remember his name now. Ronan is destroying Xandarian outposts and killing people and children.
Is empirically bad.
Yeah, but we're not seeing any of that.
Yeah, we're not.
We see him kill one Xandarian.
Yes.
Pretty brutally.
Yes.
I mean, it's a good cutaway because you don't have to show it,
yeah.
but it's a pretty brutal concept that he just squashes his head with a hammer.
Yeah.
But we're not seeing him be the big bad the whole time. We're mostly focused on this chase for this item.
Yeah.
Without seeing the damage that they're going to stop from portraying on all these people.
And so it makes it hard to, why should we care about them so much? Because they seem like they're cool, but also...
They arrested our heroes right off the bat.
Right. That is one thing, and they do definitely come off like the Alliance and Firefly. It's another thing that I see in movies where you're supposed to care about the ones who look the most like the humans.
Yeah.
which is, and then you got the ones who look like humans and the ones that are blue, and so automatically you're supposed to care about the one. And I hate that trope, and when I see that trope, it takes me out of it.
Wish there were more pink people in this movie. When John C. Reilly's Daenerys Day goes back home, he's got a pink wife,
which was awesome.
Yeah, and his beautiful CGI enhanced eyed child.
Yeah,
with her giant orb eyes, which were adorable.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have known that before, and I would have loved to see more of those. I mean, we see other when we're on Xandar when the fight sequence happens between 4 of the protagonists.
That was amazing.
There's all sorts of different species around.
Yeah,
but most of them are human and white, like really white. There's that one guy that Raccoon totally disses for his hair, and that guy is not only white, his hair is white. Of course, your obligatory Stan Lee cameo.
Oh, that was amazing. That's like one of my favorite Stan Lee appearances either too. That was great.
Class A prevert.
And then Groot drinking out of the fountain.
Right.
And established those characters right off the bat. It was amazing. And so, I love that. But then the Gamora's emotional arc didn't make sense, which is something, unfortunately, that happens a lot with female characters.
I don't think it doesn't make sense. I don't think they play to it enough. Is the problem. Like, the arc of fighting independence, I mean, aside from the thing where she becomes a doe-eyed schoolgirl at the end, is so much so that she's even wearing a dress. Yeah, I noticed because she's gorgeous in it. But whatever.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. The thing about turning doe-eyed at the end doesn't make sense. But the idea of striking out against her father and then being one of the people to take down this guy who has this orb from her father, and even asking her sister, her adopted sister, to come with her, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just when you bookend it with the doe-eyed thing, it doesn't make sense.
Yes, and they could have gone into it more and sort of go into like if you have a character from that background, it doesn't make sense why she would warm up to Star-Lord.
At least not that fast.
At least not that fast, yes. And you could show like hints that she's, maybe coming around to it, but the way they did it was...
Yeah. They had one great moment, which was like, this is a good medium ground. Maybe they should end the relationship like that. When he tries to put the moves on her and she pulls a knife on him, I'm like, that's right. That's what would happen.
Exactly. That was a great, yeah.
So to have a little bit of faith, but not to be the star-eyed, the doe-eyed lover at the end, would have been great. Like, to show that she has enough faith in him to travel with him, that's cool. Because she does go traveling with him across the galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
But to be like, yeah, I'm your girl Friday in this journey.
Yeah.
Totally not.
Also, it's really hard for me to elaborate why, but there's the opening scene of the movie pissed me off.
With his dying mother?
With his dying mother. And the thing is I mean, I get it, both my parents are still alive, and I haven't dealt with death as closely as many other people have. And in many ways, the movie is talking about how you deal with that. However, to me, it felt manipulative and it felt forced. And it's like, automatically, we have to care about this kid because his mother died, where we don't know anything else about him. Which, it's the way that they did it. It took me out of the movie. It made me feel like the movie was manipulating my emotions. And I get really sensitive to the idea that the movie is trying to manipulate my emotions. And I know a lot of people who have very different reactions to that.
I am one of those people.
And I understand that. And it's hard for me to talk about it because it's very much, it's not on an intellectual level, it's on an emotional level, how I reacted watching that scene.
Yeah.
It pissed me off. That was the first scene of the movie. I mean, he can have that as his backstory. You can get into that. That's what happened. You have it as the first scene of the movie. It pissed me off, and it set me off on edge from the very beginning.
I did not have that problem, but I could see where that might come up. So you would change that. You'd still have that be his backstory, because that is Peter Quill's backstory.
Yeah, and that's totally fine, and that can be his backstory. I wouldn't have that be the first scene of the movie.
So what would you have to be the first scene in the movie? Would you just go straight to him being on the planet?
That scene. That
I
scene's
do love
fucking
that scene.
amazing. That scene's so fucking amazing.
It is a great scene.
And we don't have to know anything about him going into that either. And it's like there's this mysterious guy with a cool mask, and he has this Walkman and this music, and he's dancing around, and he clearly loves like the thief. Like you don't know what he's doing at the beginning, but he clearly loves it, and it's why not
Very
start
fun.
with it? Why not start with that? I would totally start with that, and then you can go into what happened. And well, yeah, it'd be so much more mysterious too. Why he's clearly like involved in all this high tech. He has all this alien tech shit,
But he's obviously just a guy.
But he's also clearly like a human Terran guy who is from roughly our time period or before, and he has a Walkman that says Awesome Mix on it, and what is his backstory? Why would he have the thing that is so out of date compared to the rest of the tech
I could
he has?
totally see that.
And I think it would be amazing.
So your main plot points you change is you change the character arc for Gamora, at least how it ends.
Yes.
You would focus to actually tell Gamora's story as it shifts,
Yes.
which I do have to admit would be kind of hard with how big the ensemble cast is.
I do agree, but
But I think that, there could have been a takeoff of Peter Quill, and it still made Peter Quill just as important a character.
you cut off one or two, a little bit of Peter Quill's story. You added
The
to
opening
Gamora.
sequence.
Yeah.
That can easily be exposition later.
Yeah. Exactly. Or just flashbacks or whatever.
Well, they still flash back to it later when he jumps out of the ship for Gamora, and that could have been enough.
Yeah, I agree.
Like he had mentioned that it was a gift from his mother, the tape,
And you could piece together the details. You would figure out, clearly it's very important to him, and
obviously we know, with the way Gantu mentions it, we obviously know he was abducted at some point in his childhood, and they didn't eat him, which I still think is one of the best running jokes in that whole movie.
Yeah.
Is that all these boys never tasted Terran before, and he's like, I should not have to thank you for not eating me.
I love that part.
That's a great moment for him. Like, you don't thank someone for not eating you. Like, you took me from home. Yeah. That would have been enough, and you could have taken that time to focus on maybe more of Gamora's story, maybe explain more of like what happened to her. They cut out a scene. There's a scene where she has scars, like she has implants on her back, and there's a scene where her back is shown in the prison sequence, and they cut that out. It was in the previews, in some of the previews, but they cut it out of the actual movie. And it's like that probably would have led to more of Gamora, and they must have cut it out for story choices or editing choices. But there's plenty of way they could have told that story more. You would have given more backstory to the war that's actually happening between these two people, so we see some of it, so we know how big of a bastard he really is.
And also just a little bit more of like understanding who the Xandarians are. Just we do get that one scene that's really great on their planet, and we see that it's obviously a
pretty peaceful fucking place.
A peaceful, advanced, cosmopolitan. Seems pretty nice, though. Yeah. Maybe, like, in the Alliance where it's a little bit too nice kind of way.
Yeah. Well, I think that probably could have been changed up if there was a little bit more racial diversity in the species.
Yeah.
There's a lot of white representation in this movie.
They didn't have to look so...
White?
Yes, they didn't have to look so white. More Peter Stefanowitz, because I love him, and I thought he was going to be a bigger part in the movie than he was. The whole thing, what a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah.
I wanted more of him. I thought he was going to be more of a character than he was in one scene.
In one really great redeeming moment, though. Where he dies for the cause.
Oh, yeah.
He had a great moment. I mean, other than that, is there anything else you'd want to change?
This is more of a personal preference to me, but I was not a fan of the music.
Okay, you're completely wrong. You are 100% completely wrong. It is the first soundtrack with not an original song for the soundtrack to ever be number one on the Billboard charts, and it stayed on the Billboard charts number one for weeks. It is the best soundtrack next to, like, Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
And I know, and that's why I said it's a personal taste thing. So I feel like an asshole saying it, but...
you are an asshole
I am an asshole saying it. Okay, all right.
That might be the one thing that could never be changed about this film.
And you know, it's very much is James Gunn's vision, and very completely the 100% the realization of his vision.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have a bit more female representation in the movie. There's other... I know that Cassie got cut out of the movie. That she was supposed to be in that. And the stuff I've read with her, she's fucking awesome. And Captain Marvel could have been the Carol Danvers could have...
There's a reason they didn't bring Captain Marvel in this, and that's because they're waiting for Captain Marvel to be in a movie.
It's just as an example.
There's other female Guardians that have been in that they could have brought in.
Yeah.
And I think they will. I mean, if they can get their hands on...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, if they could come to terms with Fox.
Yeah.
I want Kitty Pryde coming in.
Oh, my... I don't know if you've seen the solicits for the comics that are going to be coming out in the fall.
I did.
The Guardians that they're going to... with...
Kitty and, Star-Lord get married.
Well, then Kitty turning into Star-Lord, basically. Like, they're going to have the team with her as the leader in a Star-Lord mask. And it's fucking brilliant. And plus, she has a dragon. Her pet's a dragon. Like,
her pet is a dragon.
Oh, my God.
Kitty Pryde is one of my favorite characters in the entire Marvel Universe. Oh, well.
Yeah.
More female representation, better exposition for Gamora, maybe a little less Peter Quill, mostly from the mom scene. Giving us a better reason to care for these people. And
not having to have seen it 4 months after everyone else.
Yes, you would definitely change that. But for the movie, I think we nailed some of the things you would fix. And I do have to agree, a lot of those things totally would make for a better feature.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much would be if James Gunn ever gets to do a director's cut.
I wonder about that. And part of it for me, when I was watching it again, realizing I liked it a whole lot more the third time than I did the first two times.
The pacing is amazing.
The pacing's fucking amazing. And there's a lot of things I appreciated more the third time as well.
It's breakneck, and you don't feel like you're missing anything or you're going to lose anything. It's kind of fantastic.
But one thing that occurred to me is that a lot of my quibbles could very much be cured, very much just as long as the sequel's good.
I can't wait for the sequel. And the fact that they just named it Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I haven't seen a movie just be 2 other than Iron Man in forever. Like, everything's got to be some highfalutin name to it now. And it's just like, just 2. 2 is cool, man. RoboCop, it worked for RoboCop, it worked for Superman.
And Volume 2, so it ties in with the movie,
and
while being subtle.
With the soundtrack, it's great.
With being subtle. And
I love it.
And pulling in even just a little bit more around the Marvel Universe, like, I wish the cameos that were in it had been strong for me. Like, I was kind of wanting more from the new way. I wanted more, like, I wanted...
Well, there you have it. That was I Want to Like This episode 14, Guardians of the Galaxy. I hope that you're the type of person who didn't get bummed out by that idea of feminist discussion and the wanting for strong female characters to be portrayed who aren't just necessarily going to cow down to male interests. If you're the type that got offended by this, maybe you just turned it off and you're not hearing this, but if you didn't, thanks, and hopefully you can think about these things a little bit more critically, and hopefully you can join in the discussion below. Just leave a comment, a message, I Want to Like This on Twitter or on the Facebook page. Josh Fred did, in fact, make a Twitter account, which is why we have another closing today, and I just want to let you know that you can express your opinions, or even talk, or follow, just to see if he says anything funny. You can follow Josh Fred on Twitter, at MartianJosh. At MartianJosh. That's Josh Fred. And I hope you guys have a great day. Go see some more movies.